Hello and welcome to coverage of Grand Prix Detroit. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Luis Scott Vargas, and we are underway here in round number 11 where we've got Matt Nass versus Sam Black. They're both on 8 and 2. You can see Sam's currently ranked 5th on the top 25 pro rankings. And we've got Elves versus Lantern Control. This is a matchup I actually haven't seen in Modern before. How does this play out?
Sam would rather not play against this version of Elves deck compared to a normal one because Matt Nass doesn't win the game by attacking. His win condition, I mean, he can attack because he can make infinite tokens sometimes, but his win condition is frequently going to be Shaman of the Pack and then bounce it with Curio and just drain a million life. So Ensnaring Bridge, not a huge factor.
Wow.
On the plus side for Sam, I think he's got one of his main deck Pyroclasms in his hand, which is going to help a lot in stopping Matt Nass from going off. So you see Sam. Actually, he even found a Mox Opal, but he has to decide whether or not he wants to Pyroclasm. Needle, not the most effective card because it doesn't stop mana abilities. So even though Matt's got a ton of activateds, they're all mana abilities.
Is there anything? Like, does he play a fetch land? Is there anything that
you could name a fetch land? He does play some of those. I don't think he's got another very relevant. He's got like one copy of Missouri. Yeah, and it's way too ambitious to not Pyroclasm here.
He named Misty Rainforest, Luis, so. And no, we're not going to correct Sam Black's name to Sam Black 7000. It's his model number, so.
So the cards Matt really has to worry about are the hand disruption cards, like the Inquisition of Kozilek, which Sam actually milled with Codex, he didn't draw it this game. And, of course, Sam's setting up the Lantern Lock and preventing Matt's draws. But if Matt has the combo in hand, he can often set it up. And here's a Cloudstone Curio from Matt. It's also nice for Matt that Forbidden Orchard doesn't have much of a drawback in this matchup. Giving Sam even a couple tokens is really unlikely to end the game in Sam's favor because the rest of his deck just doesn't attack at all. One thing you'll note is Lantern decks tend to mill themselves when they don't have the lock set up because it doesn't help to mill Matt Nass's deck when you don't know what he's got in his hand or what's on top of his deck, rather. So
there's an Inquisition, and he's going to see, Summer's Pact, a Heritage Druid, and an Eternal Witness here.
I would be most inclined to take Eternal Witness just because it replicates the other things, and Eternal Witness plus Cloudstone Curio. Like, Imagine Sam takes Summoner's Pact, and he's like, well, I'm worried about what Matt could play. Next turn, Matt can go Witness, get back Heritage Druid, play Heritage Druid, bounce Witness.
Yep, Sam makes that exact play here.
And I don't think you're going to see Sam playing or prioritize playing Ensnaring Bridge, because, again, that's not really the battlefield over which this match is going to depend on, because Matt is good. His win condition is going off with Beck Call or Curio, and it has not much to do with the combat step. But now Sam actually might be able to get into a position where he's able to stop Matt from drawing relevant cards. But with Heritage Druid plus Summoner's Pact, Matt's very close to being able to go off here.
What does he need?
So if he has a Heritage Druid and a Dwynen's Elite, he can play those two, tap for 3, bounce one of them, like the Dwynen's Elite, replay it, but he needs the Nettle Sentinel to really go off.
Okay.
He would like to. The Eternal Witness would have been very helpful. He would like to find a Beck Call to draw a bunch of cards and then find enough combo pieces to to go from there. So Matt's a little short, but he's not actually that far away.
The Summoner's Pact gets him whatever piece he doesn't have. Is that its purpose here?
Yeah, the Pact is able to pick up, Nettle Sentinel or Dwynen's Elite or any of those cards that really kind of get him there in terms of trying to combo off. It can't pick up the Curio, of course, but it gets all the rest of the pieces. And this is, you see that this is a much more combo-focused deck. I mean, cards like Summoner's Pact and Forbidden Orchard obviously mean that you're not winning a long game. You're sacrificing some amount of like normal draw capability for a combo finish. So Matt going to cast Manamorphose, and Sam can stop Matt from drawing the Elvish Mystic, but it's not as important as a lot of different cards.
Ooh.
So that's Regal Force. So 7-drop, 5/5, and you draw a card for each green creature you control. That's another combo piece to get with Summoner's Pact.
Interesting. So Summoner's Pact is going to get cast here. In response, he's going to just go ahead and mill away the Regal Force.
Yeah,
and
it's
like
unlikely.
Winans Elite looks like what Matt Nass had in mind anyway.
Right, and it's unlikely that Matt would get the Regal Force anyway, but Sam decided that's probably a unique enough one of that I'm fine just milling that one now. So because Matt has the Elvish Mystic, he can go Heritage Druid, Winans Elite, float 3, bounce Heritage Druid, replay Heritage Druid, replay Elvish Mystic.
Whoa.
He can start making a bunch of tokens. Sam has an Ensnaring Bridge.
He's got one in his hand.
Yeah. And Matt now has a Summoner's Pact, so that's one of the cards that gets around Ensnaring Bridge. So actually, well, I guess Sam has Codex Shredder.
Yeah, not a great place to have it on top of the library there, huh?
So Sam gets a token for Forbidden Orchard. Matt gets a token.
So there's a couple of triggers on the stack here.
Yeah,
one of them from the Twinings Elite, one of them from the Cloudstone Curio.
And Matt's gonna stack them so that he gets the token and then Curio triggers.
So he can make the mana in between here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Before deciding if he wants to bounce. So
Matt decided not to bounce anything with the trigger.
Yeah.
But he's going to do it with the Mystic trigger here.
Yeah.
Okay. So Cloudstone Curio is going to trigger. He's going to return the Dwinance Elite to his hand.
Yeah, he's going to return Heritage Druid, go to 2 green, return Dwinance Elite.
And then he can make as many elves as he wants here, basically.
Looks like he stopped. So he taps those for 3.
Okay.
Plays Elvish Mystic, has 2. So he actually needs a Nettle Sentinel to really fully go off.
Okay, well, he's got a pile of elf tokens sitting there. You see them?
Yeah. Okay.
I'm
So
assuming he just made...
He just made a bunch of tokens, and so he's going to be able to pay for the pack. If Sam can get the last card out of his hand, actually Sam's going to be 1 card short, isn't he? He needs to Ancient Stirring, because he can't play Bridge and Ancient Stirrings in the same turn.
Ah, sure.
There we go. Yeah, Matt wanted to, I guess, end up with Dwin's Elite in his hand. Sam actually is 1 mana short also of Thoughtseizing himself, like if he was able to draw the Thoughtseize, but that's unfortunately off the table.
Wow, yeah. So the fact that these Elvish Warrior tokens are 1/1s, or elf tokens are 1/1s,
is an advantage.
huge
If they were
here.
2/2s, then Matt couldn't win here.
Is he short? Is Sam Black just that close? Well, he's going to get rid of the Thoughtseize. But another 1 mana spell with the Cool Color spell.
Though if Sam finds a a land with Ancient Stirrings, he can just play Land Bridge. The problem is he might have to sack the Lantern, because otherwise that Shaman of the Pack will in fact be lethal.
Wow, this is really, really close here. These combo decks going against each other. I don't know if Lantern's really a combo deck per se, but
I think it kind of is. It's
yeah.
a combo control deck where its combo is like locking them out with Bridge and making them never draw another card.
Mm-hmm.
And so even through Inquisition and a Pyroclasm, Matt Naff made infinite tokens on turn 4 here.
Wow.
Yes, since that was all during Sam's upkeep, he was worried about this situation. He did not want to draw a spell that cost mana.
And what did he draw? Couldn't quite see it.
It looked like he drew a Ghoul Caller's Bell.
Okay.
Yeah, so the other card in play, and the card that enabled all of this, is Cloudstone Curio, which means that whenever Matt Nass plays plays an elf or any other permanent, he gets to bounce a permanent of the same type.
Wow, and that's it. Sam Black, even with the Bridge in hand, cannot empty his hand to get below 1 card in hand, and Matt Nass gets to attack with an arbitrarily large amount of elves and takes game 1.
So one of the things that's interesting there is, earlier I was saying yes, Bridge isn't a huge priority. Sam, knows that Matt's going to combo through it or whatever. That may not have been entirely accurate, because Matt was actually surprisingly close to just making 1 million elves, or 700,000 or maybe 2 million, some number. it's possible that Sam just wanted to get the bridge out as soon as possible, just in case of that scenario that exactly happened. Just because a lot of Matt Nass's combos do involve him making infinite elves and drawing his whole deck and draining Sam out. But here, Matt went off kind of with limited resources and was able to squeak out the win with just 1/1s, whereas if Sam had maybe turboed out a bridge, I don't know if there was a turn where he could have cast it, but it's possible that there's a turn where he could have cast it, then next turn played all his 1-drops and been empty-handed. So if I were Sam, I don't think I would have played differently, because I would have been like, well, the bridge isn't huge. I need to like disrupt his combo as best I can with Inquisitions and getting my Codex Shredder out and stuff. But as it turned out, Sam actually ended up not being able to empty his hand fast enough, so his bridge was crucial.
Yeah, and even then though, let's say that Sam did find a way to get the bridge down to stop the tokens from coming in. Matt just transitions to his other plan of trying to find a Shaman of the Pack there.
Well, yes, it was funnily enough the top card, but he's only playing one Shaman of the Pack, and he's playing one Eternal Witness.
He's only got the one.
So they're a combo piece. So the one Eternal Witness and the one Shaman of the Pack mean that Sam had already Inquisition the Eternal Witness, and the Shaman would have gotten milled. I actually saw Josh Utter-Layton, he and Matt built this deck, and Josh was able to go off. So Josh is playing against the mono-white Soul Sisters deck that has a bunch of Soul Wardens and Essence Wardens, or not Soul Essence Warden, the Soul's Attendant. So every time Josh played an elf, his opponent was gaining like 3 life. So his opponent ended up at hundreds and hundreds of life. But the way Josh comboed out was he used Eternal Witness to loop Manamorphose. Each Manamorphose got him 2 black.
Okay.
So for every card, and he had a limited number of cards in his deck, but he drew through almost his whole deck, making 2 black for each card, and then played Shaman of the Pack that many times. So even though his opponent was at like hundreds and hundreds of life, it was like Shaman for 60, Shaman for 60, Shaman for 60, Shaman for 60.
Insane. So this is Reid Duke versus Shahar Shenhar, both players at 8-2, and Reid's also on elves. Now, do you happen to know? I mean, I can dig up the list here if he's on the same type of deck, because
I do know what Reid's on, and it's an elf deck that is the more typical version. This is of the however many elf decks in the tournament, in 70 elf decks or whatever, and the number ends up being. There's probably 68 on this deck and 2 on the
crazy version. Yeah.
So what this elf deck is trying to do is play out as many elves as possible, but their finishers are Izuri, Renegade Leader, and Elvish Archdruid. And they have like Lead the Stampede and Collected Company to fuel it.
What do you feel like the difference is? Like when I think about these type of decks, I would assume consistency enters play here. Like Reid Duke's deck looks like it's a more consistent version of elves. Is that true, or does Matt Nass not really give that much in terms of consistency?
Well, Reid and like Andrew Cuneo are playing the same deck. Their deck is much more consistent, and it can win normal games. Like if Reid draws almost any combination of elves and 3-drops, he's probably going to be able to assemble a pretty normal-looking squad, right? A bunch of elves, an Imperious Perfect Azuri, or Arvus Archdruid, and win the game that way. Matt Nass can draw hands of like Cloudstone Curio, Shaman of the Pack, Summoner's Pact, and like.
And maybe not the mana to get some of it.
Forbidden Orchard, Backcall, just like some with these weird combinations that don't do anything, but Matt Nass's deck's also much more explosive. It can win the game in one turn, especially off fewer cards. So Shahar had a pretty nice draw this game, didn't he?
Yeah, he's looking pretty good. He Ancient Stirring twice to set it up, but he's got now Reality Smasher and an Endless One. Really applying a lot of pressure to Reid, who's trying to set up the combo. He had his first elf gut-shotted by Shahar.
Which snow cards do you think Reid's playing such that he would want Boreal Druid?
I think he just wanted another mana elf.
Sadly, you're accurate.
That's the theory.
Yeah, Boreal Druid, the infrequently seen 9 through 12th Elvish Mystic. There's 4 Elvish Mystic, 4 Llanowar Elves. You can play Elves of Deep Shadow, but this version of the deck isn't playing Shaman of the Pack, so they'd rather tap for colorless or snow mana and not take damage. Dwynen's lead a really big, really big part of all of these Elves deck. It's just so good with Heritage Druid, as you're about to see.
Yeah, it looks like Reid is going to be able to dump the majority of his hand here. His hand is Lead the Stampede, Elvish Visionary, and something.
It looks like Collected Company.
Yeah, it is Collected Company. Goodness sakes.
So Reid can even take an additional 7 next turn, and then Company, and maybe win on the following turn. So Heritage Druid is the handy shortcut. Those 3 elves are 3 mana, and then the Elvish Mystic is the 4th. So Reid has access to 4 mana. Heritage Druid is a fun card. I can attest to that.
Yeah, you guys get along really well. you and Heritage Druid.
So Shahar has another Endless one here, but that's not going to be particularly relevant in terms of pressuring Reid right now, especially because Endless ones get chump blocked pretty easily, but also because Shahar can attack for 7, Reid can just fall to 4, and if he finds like an Elvish Archdruid, he could easily just go off next turn.
Well, looks like he's going to go for the Collected Company here before blocks. Just get all his information.
Yeah, there's not a big disadvantage to doing that. Wow, there's an Izuri. So the reason Izuri is so good in this deck, and the reason they're playing 4 of the legendary creature, is for 5 mana, Izuri gives all your elves +3/+3 and trample, and that just means it's so easy to just assemble lethal without a whole lot of effort. Even though Reid will have to tap a bunch of his elves to give trample, it's still just tons of damage.
Right, even off only 2 or 3 elves getting in.
Also, this is like a lot of other Collected Company decks we've seen. It's built to maximize the number of 3-drops. Like Reid hit Elvish Archdruid Izuri here. If he gets both those, next turn he just has straight up lethal by
He's also got a Twining's
miles.
Elite that it looks like he's considering here too.
I think part of the reason to consider those things is that Reid wants to play around, Shahar having maybe a removal spell, and he might want to chump block this turn.
All right, well, let's actually jump back to our main match. That one has the actually, let's just hang here for a minute.
If we wait just a minute here,
Yeah.
Reid's going to be able to cast Lead the Stampede on his turn, and we'll have a really clear picture of what's going to happen. Because Shahar's going to let Reid do this block, play a 7/7 Endless one, then Reid's going to untap. So we'll get to our main match after Reid's next turn.
Yeah, that sounds good. So Reid gobbles up the Endless one, takes 5 damage here.
Yeah, thanks to Archdruid, that Dwinen's Elite was a 3/3.
Yeah, then this does not look great, right? Just a big Endless one against the type of board that Reid's
No,
assembled
this looks
here.
great.
the Endless one, you're excited about that?
No, I'm excited about what Reid's going to do this
For
turn.
Reid, yeah. I meant from Shahar's perspective. Not the threat he really wanted here. But yeah, Reid does look like he's in very good shape. So you're thinking he's going to go lead the Stampede?
He actually drew Jiraga Warcaller, which is another way to make all your elves gigantic. This is like a lower 1 block throwback. Jiraga Warcaller and Imperious Perfect.
No kidding.
So Reid's going to play a giant Jiraga Warcaller. That's actually going to do it. We can move to our next game. That's
this is going to
it's
pump
going to
up all the other
multi-kicker.
elves.
Yeah, give all the other elves
and he's just
+4
going to jam
+4.
with the squad. All right, so Reid Duke is going to win the match. It looks like actually he's already up a game. Yeah, that's going to do it. Okay, jump back to our main match here, and we'll see if Matt Nass and Sam Black have gotten underway much. No, we didn't really miss much. It looks like, Beck and Call is in the graveyard thanks to Thoughtseize here.
Yeah, that's going to be a frequent target for Sam. He can deal with a lot of Matt's cards one by one otherwise, but Beck Call is a lot harder to deal with.
Codex Shredder off the top for Black. He's going to play it along with the land and shift the turn back to Nass, who does have an elf. He's got things moving.
Matt Nass has an elf. Those words have never been uttered before. Matt Nass, of course, won Grand Prix Oakland in 2010 with elves. With actually Cloudstone Curio elves as well, I believe, with Elvish Archdruids. So one of the other kill conditions that Josh and Matt considered, by the way, was Primal Command. Instead of playing Manamorphose and Shaman of the Pack, you play Primal Command, and what you do with that is you can loop it with Eternal Witness and put all their non-creature or your opponent's non-creature permanents on top of their deck.
This is assuming infinite mana.
Yeah, gaining infinite life, and you can keep reshuffling your deck so you don't get decked. But
wow,
they concluded that drawing Manamorphose and Shaman of the Pack was going to be better, especially since they kind of wanted Manamorphose anyway, was going to be better than having a Primal Command in their deck. But they weren't sure. It's really interesting to figure out which kill condition to use.
So Sam's going to mill himself on end step as Matt Nass pass a turn back. He's got action in hand, but nothing to do with it. And Sam, land go.
Yeah, Sam's hand is Pyroclasm and 2 Glimmer Voids, which is not where he wants to be.
Yeah, now this is interesting, though, because, we saw Reid Duke pile on a bunch of very big elves onto the turn in that one big swing with the Collected Company into the Jiraga Warcaller. And Matt Nass doesn't have that capability, right? Like, the Pyroclasm will just kill things.
Right. Matt Nass doesn't have a way to protect all of his creatures. Like, he's not playing any copies of Izuri. He's not playing any Elvish Archdruids or Jiraga Warcallers. So he's a lot more on just the straight-up combo plan. And Eternal Witness is going to help here.
Now, is this going to entice Sam Black into firing off?
It's so rough because Sam doesn't. Pyroclasm. Look what it does for Sam. It kills an Elvish Visionary, 1 with no abilities.
Bridge off the top. Yeah.
An Eternal Witness, a 2/1 with no abilities.
That he already got value.
And an Elvish Mystic. So yes, he might have to Pyroclasm, but it just doesn't actually accomplish all that much. And again, Bridge, like it almost saved him last game, but it doesn't look like it's gonna be great here. So it looks like Sam's gonna just. He wants to make it so Heritage Druid gets a lot worse. I think that's the biggest advantage of casting Pyroclasm here.
Interesting here. Sam sort of feigned. He's like, tap, tap. Yeah, maybe not. I'll just start attacking. And Matt's like, yeah, fine.
The 1 damage from Sam just doesn't matter.
Right.
He basically can't deal lethal damage unless something very strange happens.
Okay, so Pyroclasm is going to wipe the board, which looks pretty flashy, but I think, like you said, those creatures just aren't super important to Matt's plan here. He does have a Heritage Druid in his hand.
Yeah, I mean, Matt would have loved to have those in play, and maybe this delays him a little bit, but that was a 1-for-1. Pyroclasm traded for Elvish Mystic. Both Eternal Witness and Elvish Visionary replaced themselves.
Yeah.
Another neat combo, by the way, is Beck Call, then you sack a fetch land to get a Dryad Arbor.
Oh, still enters the battlefield. That's crazy.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on here.
Yeah.
I really like this combo version of Elves. It's the sort of deck that really didn't want to play against Jund or like Snapcast or Lightning Bolt decks, but those decks are largely absent. There just aren't very many of them.
You know, we often talk in terms of what turn a deck can win on, maybe possibly, but also somewhat reliably. Where would you put the Elves deck here? Is it a turn 3 deck? Is it a turn 4
I think
deck?
undisrupted, it's probably closer to turn 3 than turn 4, but in between them. Like, this is going to be a value bet call. Matt Nass is not going to go off this turn unless something very strange happens.
He'll just draw a couple of cards off of it.
Yeah, I think his plan is to follow up with, like, another 1-drop here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe that Heritage Druid in his hand.
And it turns Beck Call into a...
There you go. That'll Sentinel.
Into a draw 3, because I don't think Matt's played a land yet, so if he gets to go... Oh, he drew an Orchard.
Oh, draw 4.
And then he gets to play another 1-drop here.
Yeah, that's the 4th, right? 2 off the Orchards and 2 off the Elves. Now, that's insane.
And that's the second bet call in Matt's hand, so now next turn he's almost assuredly going to be able to go off if Sam doesn't do something.
And Sam does not have a lot going on here. He's got Bridge, Land, and now a Lantern, so it's more like the bad news Lantern rather than one that helps him control the game.
Ooh. Matt slided in some of his 4 Ancient Grudges as well.
Oh, okay. Interesting stuff that you see out of the sideboard here, given the Forbidden Orchards and the Manamorphose and stuff. He can get away, in an Elf deck with playing black cards and red cards. Kind of cool. Beck and Call.
Yeah, Sam has
Blue.
access to black, red, and blue mana, or cards that cost those colors. He has Stomping Grounds and Breeding Pools to cast the blue and green, the red cards. He doesn't actually have a black source for Shaman of the Pack because you really don't need to cast it unless you're going off. All right, Sam. This is a Sam, like, you know.
Go.
If Sam Black 7000 had emotions, he would be unhappy right now. But he's in tournament mode. Ooh, Nykthos Shrine to Nyx.
Oh,
because your 4-color deck wants a colorless land. No,
Sure.
because Nykthos is a way to generate, 6 or 7 mana in the middle of a turn sometimes. And look at this Beck Call.
Wow, this is
2
absurd.
Orchards.
He's drawing 2 cards before even casting anything after Beck Call.
Yeah.
There
Oh,
you go.
double Nettle Sentinel. Yeah, this isn't going to be close to fizzling. It's also a huge advantage that Beck Call is a May. Glimpse of Nature is not. You have to draw a card every time you play a creature. But Beck Call, for whatever reason, it just ends up being a May. And now Matt's, again, this is full old combo Elves glimpse time, because every time he plays a green spell, both Nettle Sentinels untap, and they essentially tap for green. So every green spell Matt casts generates 2 green mana,
Right.
which means he's up mana on all of them.
Now he's drawing 2 cards because of the Dwynen's Elite, and Sam Black has to just sit back and watch here.
Yeah, I mean, you can't
Why not?
concede. Matt might mess up. I think people have messed up against Sam in this position before.
Sure.
And if Matt, does not find a key piece, though, that really just seems nigh impossible. It's not 0%, but it's pretty close.
Yeah, Sam's even helping out. Keeping track of, I believe, the extra mana that Nass has there, those dice up top.
Summoner's Pact, just getting another Nettle Sentinel, because that just means that Matt has basically infinite green. But if Matt finds a Cloudstone Curio, the game is actually just over. And even if he doesn't, like, what is he drawing that isn't Cloudstone Curio and isn't more creatures?
Elf, yeah.
I mean, maybe Matt hits a bunch of lands in a row, but that seems highly implausible as well.
He still has that. Oh, Sam's just going to spike. But what happened? So Sam said, well, I'll use my Codex Shredder, but Matt just showed him that he has a Shaman of the Pack in his hand already.
Yeah, which is going to do the trick.
Yeah. So now you see that Matt is explaining to him what he's going to do. And Sam's just reviewing it to make sure that everything checks out here. And he says, everything checks out here.
Yeah.
And Matt Nass is going to improve to 9-2 with his combo version, full-on combo version of Elves here. And Sam is gonna drop down.
Shahar, Shenhar trying to study his enemy's weaknesses.
Look at him.
Shahar, Shenhar 3000 trying to figure out what his plan is for the next round.
He's probably reprogramming right now.
He's downloading a patch.
Exactly. Wow, that Elves deck is pretty exciting there for Matt Nass. Okay, let's jump over to our last match going in the feature match area. This is Paulo, Vitor, Damo, Rosa on Lantern as well. He's playing against Michael Majors, who's on the blue-white Eldrazi deck. And for those of you just tuning in, we had some pretty crazy stuff happen. We've been keeping an eye on the percentages of the top 100 decks that were Eldrazi at all 3 GPs this weekend. And I can tell you, Melbourne, it was 43% Eldrazi in the top 100 on day 2. In Bologna, it was 39%. And here in Detroit, it's 47%.
Yeah.
Those are massive numbers for
the
Modern.
people who are going to do well this weekend are Eldrazi decks and people who have decks that are very good against Eldrazi
Yeah,
decks.
and apropos of that, the top 8 from GP Melbourne, which is finished now, was 3 Living End, which is a deck that I think a lot of people think is good against Eldrazi. 3 blue-white Eldrazi, a Dredge. That happened.
Yeah, that's pretty cool luck.
And a Lantern deck. Again, all of these basically non-interactive style decks as far as interacting with Eldrazi or Eldrazi. Last little bullet point here.
Living End is pretty good at interacting with Eldrazi.
Okay.
It just
wiping away
their board
okay,
on turn
sure.
4 a lot of the time.
That's true. So here in Detroit, Luis, we got our final number. It was higher than we thought yesterday. It was 2,555 players.
That's a lot of players.
Yeah. Do you want to take a guess on how big that is on the all-time GP ranking list?
I'm trying to think of the GPs I know are bigger. That's probably around 5th or 6th.
13.
13?
Yeah.
Okay, there have been a lot of GPs.
We've been doing work. Yeah. I was shocked by that too.
I played at the first, over 2,000 person GP actually. GP Madrid, one of the foreign GPs that I don't go to that many foreign GPs, but I remember playing Legacy in Madrid with like 2,200 people or something, and it was packed.
What was the feeling like there?
My feeling was I shouldn't have played Enchantress. The overall feeling was great excitement.
By the way, the reason I'm bringing up these news bulletins here is that we seem to be in
Paulo
a
has the
situation
game
where Paulo is locking out Michael here and, going through the motions, as it were. There are 2 ensnaring
again,
bridges.
Paulo
It's
has to be careful here because Michael Majors has access to Cyclonic Rift, Hurkyl's Recall, Stony Silence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, these are cards that can get him out of it, but Paulo has perfect information. This is exactly what Lantern wants, right? The biggest edge is that for Michael is that he's got an active Ayavugan, and he can find Eldrazi Displacer.
Oh, which he's done. And interestingly, Paulo does seem to be short ways to manipulate top of the library here, huh?
Yes, and
he's got 2 lanterns, but
in Eldrazi Displacer, what that's going to do?
Yeah, what is that going to do?
Is try to blink Thought-Knot Seer, and you can actually stack the triggers. Actually, Michael Majors might be hitting enough cards to get out of this.
Holy smokes, wait a second. Is he going to have to shuffle that one away? Is Paulo going to have to make him shuffle that one away?
Yeah. Stony Silence shuts down the Lantern deck pretty hard. But
now, what was the Thought-Knot Seer interaction here?
So when you blink Thought-Knot Seer, you got 2 triggers, and as the owner of Thought-Knot Seer, you can decide how they stack. So one of the triggers is your opponent draws a card. The other trigger is exile a card from their hand, a non-land card. So normally when you blink your own Thought-Knot Seer, or your Thought-Knot Seer gets blinked by your opponent because you get to stack the triggers either way, you want to stack it so that they draw and then you exile. But when against an opponent with an Ensnaring Bridge, Michael Majors actually has incentive to stack it the other way. So he goes blink Thought-Knot Seer, stack it, put the draw on the stack, put the exile on the stack.
Have a card.
And what he can do with enough mana is you put those 2 on the stack, you let the exile resolve against Paulo's empty hand, then before the draw trigger resolves, you blink it again, you stack it in the same way, So now you've got 2 draw triggers on the stack, then an exile trigger. Let the exile trigger resolve, do it again, and then
You get him to 3 or 4.
with enough mana, you get them to 3 or 4 cards, and then you
Wow.
just attack for lethal.
And that's crazy, too, because the Lantern deck plays so few instants.
Yeah,
right? He
basically
just
plays
can't-
Abrupt Decay. I think that's about
I
it.
think that's it. Yeah, he just can't empty his hand, so he's going to get stuck with it. Wow, so Michael Majors actually may be the one who's in the driver's seat here. I mean, what can Paulo do against this?
Well, Paulo needs to find, like, a Pithing Needle helps. Paulo has Spell Skite in play, so he's able to retarget the Eldrazi Displacer Blink ability, but it costs Paulo 2 life. He doesn't have access to any blue mana. He doesn't have any Glimmer Voids or Mox Opals. So at 2 life a pop, Michael Majors has enough mana that this could be problematic.
So that's a delay tactic then for Paulo. Oh, there's a reasonable draw.
Yeah. Oh, and there's
Ooh,
another one. All right.
Seagate
So
Wreckage into
Seagate
Pithing
Wreckage
Needle?
into Pithing
Is
Needle.
that good?
that is, in fact, good. It's funny. Lantern's not a deck that top decks all that often, but that was a good sequence of top decks.
What is Michael going to do about it?
Probably try to blink something to try to exile the needle. Like, he can try to blink Thought Knot, but Paulo... Paulo has actually 1 Mox Opal out. Paulo will blink a Sky Spawner. I don't know actually even if Paulo cares about that. I guess in general he'd rather retarget it. So
Yeah, Paulo has 18 life to play with here as well.
And so the Spellskite becomes tapped, but there's no window to blink something else while Spellskite's out because it's just all in one sequence. You know, it gets exiled, then immediately returned to play, all in the same ability.
Wow, that was huge for Paulo.
Yeah.
All of a sudden back in the driver's seat.
And because Michael Majors is playing the pretty much straight blue-white list, the Caves of Koilos are actually just to help cast Dismember and add colorless plus white mana. He's not able to Ayavugan for something like Worldbreaker. We've seen a couple Bant Eldrazi lists where they play Worldbreaker, and it's not something that Michael Majors has access to. So I don't think he can, like, he doesn't have an Ulamog.
He's searching right now, so we get to see what kind of his big finale is here, because Paulo now has found a Codex Shredder as well, so he has the bare minimum of at least being able to see what's on top of the library and get rid of it if it's terrible. And yeah, Majors is searching up an Eldrazi Mimic.
Yeah, I don't know what Paulo has against Codexes, but he's definitely ready to start shredding.
Yeah, for sure.
And yeah, Michael Majors got an Eldrazi Mimic. So at that point, Paulo has to feel pretty secure. He's like, there's no Ulamog waiting to devour, some of my permanents. There's no World Breaker to be cast off Cavern of Souls. I'm perfectly fine with Eldrazi Mimic.
And there's even another one with Ghoul Caller spell, and you can just feel this one slipping away from Majors here.
Yeah, he had a couple turns where it looked like he was going to be able to get out from under this lock. And, I have heard of the mythical Thought Knot Seer Displacer trick happening. Honestly, most of the every time we've seen Lantern in the booth, that has been a possibility, but the Lantern deck has closed out that door.
Has found a way to deal with it, yeah. There's a third Ensnaring Bridge as well on top of the library here for Paulo. Kind of interesting. He used his Codex Shredder on his turn to get rid of the Grove of the Burn Willows there.
Yeah, Paulo has a little access to a little bit of selection. Having extra Ensnaring Bridges, it doesn't help you against Hurkyl's Recall, but it helps you against almost everything else. So Michael Majors needs to hit multiple good cards in the same turn. It's actually pretty funny. Ayavugan helps you here too, because let's say Paulo goes to mill that Stony Silence, you can eye in response to shuffle it back into your deck, and then hope to draw a good card next turn. Because each eye, or rather having eye, lets you get extra shuffles in.
That's interesting. Because Paulo does currently only have 2 ways here. Yeah, Michael Majors is doing that. Paulo does only have the 2 ways right now to get rid of things, and it does mean that if you can stack them up a few in a row, you could get there.
Yeah, it looks like, assuming none have been milled, it doesn't look like any Stony Silence has been milled so far. There's 3 Stony Silence. The Cyclonic Rift is gone, and Hurkyl's Recall. So Michael's got 4 really relevant cards left.
See what he hits.
And that gets milled.
Yes. That's a land.
And things are getting worse and worse because, Seagate Wreckage is a really powerful addition to the Lantern deck. That's one of the best cards they got out of the new set because it just gives Paulo this engine to, even with Ensnaring Bridge out, Paulo actually does want to draw 2 cards a turn. All his spells are cheap. He wants to play land every turn because the more and more bells he finds, the more and more difficult it is for Michael to get out of this. I don't think Michael's actually going to be able to get out
doesn't feel like it
with 2 bells and a Codex Shredder against 4 outs. As long as Paulo doesn't get too aggressive, those 2 count double, right? Because he has them all untapped. Michael draws this Hallowed Fountain. Let's say the top card Stony Silence. Mill it. Top card Stony Silence. Mill it. mill the third one, and then Paulo's out, but then he untaps, and then mills the Hurkyl's Recall.
Right.
If they're all in a row. And if they're not in a row, then...
Which is incredibly unlikely.
Yeah. And if they're not in a row, then Paulo can just wait. Like, every time Michael Majors has something on top of his deck that doesn't help, Paulo can let him draw it. So we've seen Paulo, speed up the kill, and in some of these games, like if Paulo were to mill that Flooded Strand, which he chose not to, right? He didn't use a bunch of his mill cards. If he were to mill that Flooded Strand, then he would speed up the clock, but introduce a little bit more risk to his game plan. And we've seen him do that when he feels secure enough that he's still going to win and he wants to not worry about time. Here, since he's up a game, he doesn't... It's not that he wants to go to time. He'd rather just finish the game, but he knows that he doesn't need to get too aggressive.
Is he going to needle eye here?
I think so. That sounds painful, but yes, I think that is I think that is his plan.
Eye gouge. Another shredder on top as well.
Yeah, I mean, it seems ideal. Like it's the last activated ability that matters from Michael.
There's a Drowner.
Wonder what our top eight's going to look like here. I actually wouldn't be surprised if there were one or more elves, one or more lanterns, definitely some Eldrazi, and then, we haven't seen Affinity in a while.
Nope.
And we're going to see what else rises to the top. It actually might be a lot of elves now that I think about it. Reid, Matt Nass, and Josh, as well as Andrew Cuneo, we're all doing well with elves coming into this round, and we saw Reid and Matt Nass win.
Majors is going to continue to build out his board here, facing down the double ensnaring bridge and the rest of the combo pieces in place here for the Hall of Famer, Paulo Vitor Damo Rosa. And this is, maybe not the most scintillating Magic, but this is our last match in the feature match area.
There were some exciting turns.
I loved it before.
Seeing Paulo set it up.
Hit a bit of a stretch here, but...
One of the things I love the most about the Lantern deck overall is that it really displays how much Magic is a game about synergy. Mm-hmm. Every single card in the Lantern deck, besides maybe Ensnaring Bridge, is a card that you would not expect to come near being able to win a game in any way, shape, or form.
It's unbelievable to look at those cards and what they do, and then put them into a format as powerful as Modern, and just have be like, them all work.
Oh, he top decked the Lantern of Insight.
Yeah, he got there.
God, he found the Ghoul Colors Bell.
Yeah.
And it's just like, yeah, I mean, that's what this deck does. It takes two cards that are, 1 to 2 out of 10 on a power level scale and turns into a combo that's like an 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
Granted, Ensnaring Bridge deserves a lot of the credit. That is a powerful Magic card, and that is a card that I think is what makes this deck viable. But yeah, it is funny that the Lantern deck does that a lot more than most decks in the format.
All right, and we do see here that, as we've seen throughout the course of the weekend, Paulo quite aggressively milling here. He's just, it's end step. He's just going to go for it.
He just knows that it's so unlikely that he ends up losing that he wants to just make sure he locks the game out.
Yeah, these games can take a long time to finish up, and you see Mike being down a game has no incentive here to concede.
Paulo using Codex Shredder is the secret other ability of getting back Infernal Tutor.
Mill you. Dismember. Mill it.
Both. And then Academy Ruins, of course, making Paulo know that he can't get milled out himself.
Paulo somehow built up a lot of mana here. He's got 9 lands in play.
Well, it's the Seagate
18.
Wreckage.
That's half of the half of his available lands.
Seagate Wreckage drawing 2 a turn helps, and Paulo does have kind of 22 lands with the opals.
He's also found it. He went in Infernal Tutored for gear per Aether Grid here.
Aether Grid doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Can he kill him faster with that? Does 5 a turn, 6 if he finds another artifact. Yeah, it looks like Paulo might be doing that.
It's like 6 right now, huh? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, you're right, 5.
I know.
So down to thank you, Louise. So down to 16 goes Majors, and I mean this is.
Yeah, and so
this one's been over for a little while.
Michael Majors hoping beyond hope that something happens that will change the outcome of this game. But Lantern deck,
His hopes are drowned.
yes. The Lantern deck is, I think, the deck that I've so than almost any deck I've ever seen in Magic, that it wins for the longest amount of turns total, and your opponent knows that they're going to lose because they can't even top deck out of it for the longest amount of time. Still have to play your Magic. Still have to play your cards correctly.
That should do it though. Another artifact means that Paulo can just go grid you, end step, and then untap and grid you, and that's going to do it. Michael Majors takes his third loss of the tournament with Blue-White Eldrazi, and Paulo Vitor Damo Rosa stays very much in top 8 contention at X and 2 here. Though with 2,500 players, the records are going to be pretty high to get in the top 8. That's going to do it for round 11 here from Detroit.
Take the Oath. Retake the world. Oath of the Gatewatch is now available on Magic Online. Explore the new set by signing up for Magic Online at mtgo.com. In the art of Magic the Gathering Zendikar, you can experience the danger and beauty of Zendikar like never before. This lavishly illustrated hardcover book features the award-winning art of Magic the Gathering and gives you an insider's look at the secrets of Zendikar, its peoples, continents, and creatures. On sale now.